Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. When a player joins a brand new team, one of the first things that they have to do is figure out what jersey number they're going to wear. This is a big decision that a player makes, because this is the number that is going to define their legacy. This is the number that they're going to have an opportunity to make their own. And this is the number that is going to be sold to fans across the country. And players have many different reasons for picking a number. Some pick a number because it looks cool. Some pick a number to honor someone close to them, or to honor an idol of theirs. Some pick a number just out of habit, because it's the number they've worn their whole life. Some could not care less. But whatever the case, 99.9% of the time, even though this decision is important, it doesn't cause an uproar. You see the news that a player picked a jersey number, you think to yourself, cool, or that's a bit of a surprising choice, or that's going to take some getting used to, and you move on. However, we're not here to talk about that 99.9% of the time. We're here to talk about that one instance where a player picked a jersey number and received universal hatred for it. This is Baltimore Ravens quarterback Scott Mitchell. When he joined the Ravens in 1999, he decided that he was going to wear the number that you're seeing right here. He was going to don the number 19 jersey, and was going to become the first player in the short history of the Ravens franchise to ever wear this uniform. And let's just say that when he made this decision, he became public enemy number 1 in Baltimore. Move over, Robert Irsay. Move over, 12-year-old kid who caught the home run in the 1996 ALCS that probably should have been ruled fan interference. The new enemy in Baltimore was Scott Mitchell, all because of a uniform number. And this is the story behind the most controversial uniform selection in the history of the Baltimore Ravens franchise, and quite possibly the history of the entire NFL. Before I talk about the actual controversy in question, we need some context to understand just who Scott Mitchell is, and why the Ravens signed him in the first place. The year was 1998, and after a stint in Detroit that was up and down, and that's putting it mildly, as there were way more downs than ups past the 1995 season, the Scott Mitchell era in Detroit was coming to an end. After an abysmal game against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 2, where he threw 2 interceptions on his final 2 passes, including a pick 6 in overtime that lost the game, Mitchell's time in Detroit was over. He lost his starting job to rookie quarterback Charlie Batch, and never played another down for the Lions ever again. Even though Mitchell had 2 years left on his contract, as he was due $4 million in 1999 and $5 million in 2000, there was no way that the Lions were going to want to pay that to a disgruntled backup quarterback in his 30s and a guy who was not very good. They were trying to find ways to offload him. Fortunately for them, a trade partner emerged in the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens had a brand new head coach in Brian Billick, following 3 underwhelming seasons under Ted Marchibroda, and after a poor 1998 season where the team finished 25th out of 30 teams in passing yards. It was clear that the starting quarterback that Billick wanted was not currently on the roster. The Ravens had 3 quarterbacks throw a pass in 1998, with those guys being Jim Harbaugh, Eric Zeier, and Wally Richardson. Neither of those 3 guys would be on the Ravens in 1999. Harbaugh would be on the Chargers, Zeier would be on the Buccaneers, and Richardson would be on the Falcons. The Ravens tried to get Minnesota Vikings backup quarterback Brad Johnson, but the team's asking price was a bit too steep for them, as Minnesota wanted a first, second, and third round choice, and Washington was willing to pay it. So the Ravens went to their second target, which was none other than Scott Mitchell. Mitchell to the Ravens was not exactly a surprise to anyone in the loop. The groundwork for such a move was laid down the moment that Billick was hired by the Ravens to be their head coach. Tony Angone, the agent for Mitchell, said all the way back in January, while the postseason was still going on, I told Brian Billick that if he was in the market, to give me a call. Agnone and Ozzie Newsome, the team's vice president of player personnel, met in the middle of February while Mitchell was still under contract with the Lions. And even Billick himself back in February spoke glowingly of Mitchell, saying, Scott Mitchell is an excellent player and a capable starter in the league. People wrote off Randall Cunningham. People wrote off Chris Chandler. People wrote off Vinny Testaverde. That's not to say those people were wrong, but sometimes change makes a difference. He then added, I'm not saying they went to places where they had a better coach or a better system. Scott Mitchell, in what we do and the history that I have with offenses and quarterbacks, could possibly thrive in the environment I could create for him. I don't know that for a fact, but I've got a pretty good track record. Just as a reminder, Mitchell was still under contract with the Lions when this quote was made. Billick's talking about him like he's his starting quarterback, when in reality, he's on another team. Billick really wanted Mitchell to come to Baltimore, and really wanted to get something done. And sure enough, the world's worst kept secret was finally revealed when 1 month later, the Ravens and Lions worked out a deal to bring Scott Mitchell to Baltimore. The Ravens gave him a 3rd round choice in 1999 and a conditional 5th round pick in 2000, which would become a 4th round pick if Mitchell played in half of the team's offensive plays. And in return, the Ravens got the man that Billick was hoping would become their franchise quarterback. I think a lot of people were skeptical of this move working out, especially since the Ravens were still talking about getting a franchise quarterback in the draft or possibly acquiring Warren Moon, and especially since Mitchell was coming off of the worst season of his career and a rather poor 3-year stint after his franchise record-breaking stint from 1995. But as with all new people and new things in life, it's important that you give them a chance. Who knows? Maybe they might make a fantastic first impression, and could completely change your mind and your outlook. You might not like the move, and you might not agree with the move, but like it or not, if you're a Ravens fan, Scott Mitchell is your quarterback. You're riding with him, and the success of your team going forward rests on his shoulders, so I don't think you're actively going to be rooting against him. You want him to do well and prove you wrong. Alright, so we now know that Scott Mitchell is a Baltimore Raven, in a move that was weeks and months in the making. First order of business. What jersey number is he going to be wearing? What uniform number will he be donning when he takes to the field? Well, he decided that he was going to wear the number 19 jersey. And upon making this announcement, chaos ensued. The man you're watching right now is a quarterback that you may have heard of before. His name is Johnny Unitas, and he's widely regarded as one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the sport. Heck, at this point in NFL history in 1999, if you asked football fans who the greatest quarterback of all time was, odds are the name that would be said the most would be Johnny Unitas. He was that good, and I would be here all day if I listed every single accolade that he won in his career. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was named the MVP of the league 3 times. He was named a member of the All-1960s team. He made it to the Pro Bowl 10 times, was named a first-team All-Pro 5 times, led the league in passing yards 4 times, and guided the Colts to 3 NFL championships and a win at Super Bowl 5. Long story short, Johnny Unitas was really good, and in every sense of the word, he's a Baltimore legend. Over the final decade that the Colts were in Baltimore, no one ever wore the number 19 jersey again, as it was retired by the team. And even though the Colts were now in Indianapolis, Unitas was still a Baltimore legend. So much so that when the Ravens became a team in 1996, the number 19 jersey was out of circulation. Every other retired number from the days of the Baltimore Colts was put back into circulation. Lenny Moore's number 24 jersey, which was retired in honor of the 7-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer, was issued to defensive back Donnie Brady. Raymond Berry's 82 jersey, which was retired in honor of the 6-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer, was issued to wide receiver Derek Alexander. And Art Donovan's number 70 jersey, which was retired in honor of the 4-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer, was issued to offensive tackle Herman Arvey, just to name a few. Yet, the number 19 jersey was sacred. Johnny Unitas was Mr. Baltimore. That number was out of circulation. It didn't matter that Unitas didn't play a single down for the Ravens. He meant so much to football in that city that no one who ever stepped foot in Baltimore would wear the number 19 jersey again. Unitas was there during the opening ceremony in 1996 prior to Baltimore's first game, and openly denounced Indianapolis, saying in 1996 prior to the AFC Championship, after being asked whether or not he'd root for the Colts in that game, "You're asking me about Indianapolis. I played for Baltimore. My records don't belong there. Those things should be left in Baltimore, and when we get another team, the great things that guys like Lenny Moore and Raymond Berry did can all become a part of the Baltimore tradition again. The tradition is in Baltimore. There is no reason for any of us who played for Baltimore to be with Indianapolis. If Indianapolis invited me with a personal invitation, I would have said thank you, but no thanks. The Colts name belongs in Baltimore." For all intents and purposes, Unitas was an honorary Raven. So when Scott Mitchell announced that he was going to wear the number 19 jersey with the Ravens, to say that there was an uproar that ensued would be quite the understatement. Now, it is true that numbers have been retired and have been put back into circulation at the request of certain players. However, the players that this applies to are first ballot Hall of Famers who had better careers than the players whose jersey numbers were retired in the first place. In 2012, the Denver Broncos took number 18 out of retirement so that Peyton Manning could wear that number, even though no one had worn it since Frank Tribuca, who is not a Hall of Famer. I don't think anyone's going to argue that the Broncos should not have bent over backwards for Manning to wear the number he's associated with. In 2021, the Arizona Cardinals took number 99 out of retirement so that J.J. Watt could wear that number, even though no one had worn it since Marshall Goldberg, who is not a Hall of Famer. Again, I don't think anyone could reasonably argue with that, especially since Goldberg never played it down in Arizona, and no disrespect, but the average football fan couldn't even tell you who Marshall Goldberg even is. But here, you're going to take Johnny Unitas' number, Mr. Baltimore himself, out of retirement to appease Scott freaking Mitchell? The guy that has a career record of 30-34? The guy that has never won a playoff game? The guy that was hated in Detroit and got benched for Charlie Batch? You're going to let him wear the number 19 jersey? Now, in fairness to Mitchell, he asked permission from Johnny Unitas himself to wear the jersey, and Unitas accepted. But still, to even have the audacity to ask is saying a lot. And let's just say that this move was not received well at all, as there was a ton of uproar about Mitchell wearing the number made famous by the King of Baltimore. One writer said on the move, "You have to love Scott Mitchell. The guy was a major free agent bust in Detroit. Now that he's relocated to Baltimore, though, he suddenly thinks he's an all-pro." Another writer said that Mitchell doesn't understand the importance of this, that this was as sacrilegious as if the Baltimore Orioles handed out Brooke Robinson's number 5 jersey to someone else, and that this was disrespectful to Johnny Unitas and his legacy, with writer Dan Connolly saying, "Disrespecting Johnny Unitas will incite a riot." Another writer called Mitchell's decision to take Unitas' number 19 jersey the definition of blasphemy. And another writer said on Mitchell's bold decision, "If you always thought Scott Mitchell was a bonehead, here's more proof." Things got so bad that a few weeks after announcing the jersey number and realizing that this backlash was not going to go away, Mitchell had to put out a statement and announce to the world why specifically, of all the numbers he could have chosen from, that he chose the number 19 jersey. As Mitchell said on his rationale, "I didn't want to come here and make people think I was the second coming of Johnny Unitas. But I've worn the number 19 since I was in high school, and part of the reason I chose it was because of Unitas and an NFL Films thing I saw as a kid. I liked his style and what he was all about, so I decided to wear the number. He doesn't mind me wearing it. I want to be sensitive to what it means to the people there, but as long as he's alright with that, I'll wear it." Not a bad response. In essence, Mitchell was wearing this number as a tribute to one of his heroes and inspirations, and as long as Unitas was fine with it, then he was going to keep wearing it. But here's the thing. It didn't matter what you said. At the end of the day, you're still a quarterback wearing the number 19 jersey in a city where most of their fans couldn't dare imagine the thought of another player donning that uniform again. You were always going to be the bad guy in this situation, and you were never going to get the fans on your side no matter what you said. And unfortunately for Mitchell, this entire fiasco with the number 19 jersey was a pretty good omen to how his career in Baltimore would go. Because Mitchell was about the furthest thing from Johnny Unitas imaginable. In Week 1 against the St. Louis Rams, he went 17 for 40, completing just 42.5% of his passes while throwing 2 interceptions, fumbling once, and being sacked 5 times. He posted a passer rating of 44.6, as the Ravens lost 27-10. And the following week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he went 7 for 16 with 48 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 11.5, which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. The Ravens lost that game 23-20, and Mitchell never played another down in Baltimore ever again, losing his starting job. Just like 1998, he started the first 2 games, looked awful, and didn't play for the rest of the season. After an awful 1999 season, Mitchell found himself on the Cincinnati Bengals in 2000, and the Ravens once again unofficially retire the number 19 jersey. To this day, no other player has worn Unitas' number 19. as even though the Ravens have not officially retired any jerseys, much like Ray Lewis's 52, Ed Reed's 20, and Jonathan Ogden's 75, the number has been taken out of circulation, and it is more likely than not that no one will ever wear that number again. So what's the moral of the story here? If you're trying to make a good first impression with your new team and your new fan base, asking if you could wear the number of the greatest player to ever play football, and maybe even play sports in the city, is not the best way to go about it. Especially if you're not a very good player, and a lot of people didn't even want you on the team to begin with. If an average player goes to Green Bay and asks if he could wear the number 4 jersey, or goes to Indianapolis and asks if he could wear the number 18 jersey, the reception, understandably, is not going to be positive no matter what the reason is. At least Mitchell got one thing right. He said he didn't want to come here and make people think he was the second coming of Johnny Unitas. Safe to say, even though he took his number, he definitely succeeded in that mission. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.